Time is our most valuable resource, yet paradoxically enough, it isn't our most treasured. We start out with only so much, forced against our will to spend it, and at no point ever having more of it than we began with. Its fleeting nature, the sheer intangibility of it as a whole, and how inextricably linked it is to our lives, truly defines it as priceless. Due to its universal value, we must be cognizant of any expenditures that don't render themselves worthwhile, whilst not being too frugal as to never spend it at all, wasting it all the same. Only in recent years, though, has there been a struggle between large corporations to capitalize on the surplus time, and by proxy, money, people have saved for themselves. These businesses desire to dominate your time through any means because we pay them to do it when it's done well. Have you ever dove deep into an MMO with a friend group? Spent the day climbing a ranked ladder in a competitive game? Wandered for hours in a game like Minecraft? All examples of ways we gladly spend money for the privilege to invest large amounts of time into a given piece of media. Large corporations have seen this potential, investing heavily into video game publishing as a result, with their developers creating systems exceedingly efficient at wasting our time, whether intentional or not. In case you're unacquainted with Hanlon's razor, it's a philosophical razor that states, "Never prescribe to malice what could also be attributed to stupidity." I feel that there's a lot of cases where it's too sharp, shaving off too many potential explanations while giving bad actors an easy excuse for something they may have legitimately done in bad faith. In the case of bad decisions found in game development, however, it works great. There is a lot of incompetence and stupidity dribbling down from game company leadership, and it's extremely difficult to clean and sift it all out in the rushed time frames made available to the often overworked and underappreciated employees expected to move mountains with molehill pay. Among the idiotic mechanics sent from on high that wind up crammed into a game, the majority waste more time than any reward could possibly compensate the player for. This isn't always the case, of course, as other times it's genuine mistakes from developers or mechanics that weren't tested properly before release. Things like clunky crafting systems, wherein you're expected to get more components than seems necessary for, or require pieces that wouldn't realistically be involved in the creation of a given item. Parts being located in unintuitive places, places that are much further away than the scope of your previous searches, or even materials that you just simply don't have access to yet. It just puts the brakes on the progress of things you found important, until you've shifted your focus away from those aspects of the game long enough to satisfy the inane requirements to complete the thing needed to finally get you the item you were initially after, or to get where you were originally going. Then there are the accidentally tedious, repetitive, or otherwise slow progression systems. One example of this is exponential growth leveling curves, where the goal is not to provide a solid gameplay-backed framework of decisions to derive a more customized experience from, but rather a looming mountain that looks intriguing from afar, yet contains no incentive to fully climb when you get up close. If the quest ends halfway up, along with the maintained roads and infrastructure, why would you torture yourself into climbing the rest of the mountain at all, where even the creators of the game themselves dared not dwell for long? The benefits and strengths of the video game medium start deteriorating rapidly after the main purpose of it has been accomplished, and the rest of the content dries up. There's something to be said for completionists in games where the leveling curve looks like it's an Ray Kurzweil explanation on the singularity, but it's usually somewhere in the ballpark of why, and I'm sorry that happened to you. Diablo 2, an excellent game which set the bar for all ARPGs preceding it, and is beloved by many to this day, has an absolutely abysmal experience curve. Consequently, most players will never make it to or beyond level 80, with a vanishingly small number of players making it past 90. It's just ridiculously monotonous to grind the ludicrous quantities of experience points required to continue forward. The XP required to go from 90 to 99 is the same amount to go from 1 to 90, and time-wise, the halfway point for 1 to 99 runs is around level 98. It's so oppressive that people widely agree that builds are fully complete around level 80 to 90, and that there's no need to go into the 90s. This means an entire 5th to 10th of the leveling progression built for the game was deemed not worth the time, it takes to reach or the rewards received. Another example is content gated behind RNG, as unless you have absurd luck, you wind up repeating the same activities and tasks over and over and over again to acquire the things you're after. One of my favorite games from one of my favorite franchises, Xenoblade Chronicles 2, has a ton to offer a prospective player, with a top-tier story that can be enjoyed with or without prior knowledge of the series, an in-depth combat system that rewards experimentation, beautiful open worlds to explore, and so much more. It also has, by far, the most egregious time-wasting RNG mechanic I've ever experienced in a game not interested in more of your money. The entire combat system heavily relies on finding and unlocking blade cores. They come in a variety of rarities, and each one has a certain percentage chance to drop good characters, with legendary cores being the best. Here's the catch though. As you unlock the rare characters, with base drop rates topping out at around 2.4% and going as low as 0.1%, the chance for another rare goes down permanently because the overall pool has shrunk. It honestly makes me wonder if the game was destined for gacha-flavored microtransactions, but someone somewhere had a change of heart and removed the way to purchase more cores for money, but bizarrely left the mechanic untouched in-game. Due to this, the absurd amount of RNG required to make the most out of the otherwise impressive combat system and world-exploring mechanics might be too much for people who would have otherwise really enjoyed the entry. To the people who know, I could never bring myself to complete Ursula's questline and tree. I've only brought up innocuous mistakes and oversights so far, with a lot of room to just not associate with the time-wasting mechanic, or, at minimum, interact with it in a limited capacity. When a game studio is determined to make more money, however, it often implements purchasable shortcuts through its deliberately designed time-wasting systems to provide unfettered access to the fun parts of the game to those inclined to pay. The best way to encourage use of these paid shortcuts is to create these game systems to be as unrewarding and tedious as possible, without pushing the low-value customers who will be forced to use them away from playing the game entirely. After all, there has to be krill, or the whales will move on to better feeding grounds. These systems often express themselves as a battle pass, or in other words, a deliberately slow progression system designed to extract maximum value from minimal labor. There's some debates within the gaming community about whether or not a company can feasibly make further content without the monthly stipends it affords. Now, before anyone attempts the tired old argument of, it costs more money to develop a game now than it did before battle passes and microtransactions became popular monetization tools, you must also understand that game companies now proportionately make as much or more money than they used to for the same investment. Meaning that the only changed factor is the initial risk to eventual reward ratio already inherent to video game development. The fresh new hell that the idea of subsidizing the risks of further investment with income from microtransactions and battle passes creates is a race to the bottom scenario in which the bottom is a smoldering pit of flaming money. Developers are incentivized, directly by superiors or otherwise, to create anti-consumer progression paths intended to sell you with either A, paid shortcuts through artificially slowed game mechanics, and or B, the items found within a battle pass's paid tier by adding RNG to the only free options, if one even exists. Speaking of, loot boxes and other purchases providing random items that, in some cases, could be acquired for free with enough time invested, will always be thinly veiled carrot or stick choices, because the time investment required is seldom practicable. The relationship between consumers and game studios has long been that a developer would take a gamble to put out a product, and consumers would hopefully buy it, thus paying for their time, effort, and risk. Then later, they'd release additional content if there was a market for it, and consumers would then purchase it, again paying for their time and effort, and further rewarding the initial risk taken, rinse and repeat. The industry has increasingly shifted from that to where we, the consumers, are expected to frequently crowdfund by pre-ordering various editions of games to receive exclusive launch items. Upon release, we're then expected to continue supporting by purchasing the Battle Pass or additional premium cosmetics and specialty items from the cash shop. These products, which are created at the same time as the other base game assets and only recently became locked behind paywalls, have classically been included as part of the base game. However, after 2006 and the advent of the infamous Horse Armor DLC, the same types of items are now increasingly relegated to long and grindy quests at best, to being only available through the cash shop at worst. If there isn't enough appetite from the consumers buying microtransactions to justify further monetary investment from the studio, it'll be shelved, and further work will halt, even if the game isn't in a complete or stable state. Much to the chagrin of anyone who did spend additional money beyond the purchase price in hopes of being justified by getting further content down the line. After all, not many things waste more time than playing through a partially complete game, only for it never to be finished or hastily concluded as sequels didn't get a green light. It's almost like the consequences associated with the risks previously faced by game studios are increasingly landing on the consumer instead. Whenever you watch developers talk about their games, especially those pushing live service titles, it's important to pay attention to the way they describe the systems they're implementing. If the developer is assumed to be honest, it's usually pretty clear if a given game mechanic or system will be worth your time when determining the prospective value of an upcoming release. EA, for example, is usually quite clear on just how exploitable they believe their audience to be. If the developer is dishonest, or even just understands that the systems they design to be monetized are monotonous, they'll regularly obfuscate the relevance and importance of these design choices until after release, when the cat's already out of the bag and swarms of stands slither out of the woodwork to defend these choices as if they were their own. The crucial point to remember, though, is that both types of developers are still trying to sell you a game. Artificially added length to a quest line or story path just to increase the playtime is pretty obvious if not done correctly, and regardless, shows a quantity over quality approach. Fetch quests are a great example of this, because they're unanimously considered time-wasting, and yet developers keep spewing them into their games with reckless abandon. They don't gently encourage players to explore and interact with your world more, they're just blatant filler content, meant to make less food stretch for longer, like the sawdust in your protein bar. Worse still if they tie necessary main quest items or rare crafting components to the low-quality content in an attempt to coerce players to interact with and, in the process, legitimize them as valid aspects of a game. Overtly, this is done to create complexity by actively changing up the type of activities required to progress a game, but it comes at the cost of depth. Each additional activity beyond the main gameplay loop simply cannot receive the same amount of time and care allocated, and accordingly, the quality suffers. In live service games particularly, most systems are designed to addict you, to specifically keep you engaged with the game, not only just early on to set the hook, but after you've completed the main bulk of content available too. This gives developers additional time to prepare new seasons or DLCs, sure, but it also ensures the player base doesn't move away too quickly, or at minimum, the players haven't been gone too long before the new content releases to be pulled back in. Game companies usually accomplish this by watering down the chances for rare rewards and drops given from interacting with post-game quests and repeatable events, resulting in RNG-laden grindfests in which the experience regularly boils down into run an instance, beat a boss, loot a chest, receive trash, repeat. It just continues in perpetuity, or until the players vanish and the money streams dry up. In no reality would a person prefer to continue wasting their own time, so the onus is on the developers to incentivize it through any and all means possible. Considering how often we feel the disappointment of receiving a reward in-game that did not match the amount of effort or time spent to obtain it, you'd think we'd have all grown numb to it by now. Most of the time, if the game has quality enough features elsewhere, it's possible, or even easy, to forgive a few mistakes or sluggish systems. Depending on the severity of the offense, however, time-wasting features will go so far as to ruin the rest of the game completely and prematurely end what could possibly have been a great experience. Now, while these time-wasting mechanics and systems aren't always malicious, It's only going to become more common to see companies that will adopt anti-consumer and time-wasting mechanics if they believe they can get away with it and if they're profitable enough. When called out by their customer base, they're either forced to double down on their pursuit of money over releasing a quality game, or they acquiesce and amend the issues. In both situations, though, it's a benefit to hold a company accountable, even if only to know where they truly stand. Cooperative action is the only way to start enacting change, even if that action is as simple as not buying X product, if they practice time wasting or other anti-consumer policies. If we can make it unprofitable to be anti-consumer, then these notorious companies will either collapse or shift gears and focus into a more pro-consumer direction. If we can make it profitable to be pro-consumer, we may well have the power to do a whole lot more than just removing time-wasting features in video games and temporal disrespect as a whole.
This isn't something just any old Titan can do. Oh, hello. Miracles, I presume? Yes, I know.